For the 250th anniversary celebration of our country, this story about your relative can be framed as a story of an ordinary young farmer who answered the call to liberty, marched with Washington through some of the darkest days of the Revolution, enduring captivity and living long enough to see the nation he helped create become a thriving republic. This is the story of Harmon Cummings. Harmon Cummings was born on March 25, 1756, in what was then called Frederick County, Maryland, in an area later called Washington County. The Maryland frontier of his childhood was a dangerous place. The French and Indian War had just recently ended, and settlers along the frontier lived with the memories of raids, attacks, and uncertainty. Family research has suggested that Harmon may have lost his parents at a very young age and may have been raised by another family. On family search, as of today, it is stated that Harmon's father was the Reverend Francis Cummings, but through again a lot of people's research, this is probably incorrect. In the spring of 1776, several months before the Declaration of Independence was signed, a young 20-year-old Harmon enlisted in the Continental Army in Sharpsburg, Maryland. Now, tradition tells a compelling story that Harmon and a local friend enlisted with him. But because both men were really needed at home, they agreed that one would serve in the first portion of the enlistment, while the other stayed behind to care for the women, children, and farms. According to the story, lots were cast to determine who would serve first. The short lot fell on Harmon. What was expected to be a short separation becomes years of hardship and danger. Harmon fought as a private in the 8th Virginia Regiment of the Continental Line under George Washington. An average soldier during this time would carry a musket, a bayonet, ammunition, and a blanket and some personal supplies. They would walk hundreds of miles through the colonies as Washington's army struggled to stop the British advance. Oftentimes they would march 20 miles or more a day. One of Harmon's first major engagements was in New York at the Battle of White Plains. After the British captured New York City, General Washington attempted to preserve his army by retreating northward, but British forces under General William Howe pursued him at White Plains. Washington's army fought a defensive action against the advanced British. Although the Americans eventually had to withdraw, the Continental Army survived. This was crucial. Had Washington's army been destroyed in 1776, the Revolution might have ended before independence was achieved. At this time, Harmon would have witnessed firsthand one of the darkest periods of the war when American defeat seemed possible. By 1776, the Continental Army was in crisis. British victories had driven Washington across New Jersey. Enlisted men were expiring, morale was collapsing. They were camped up against the icy Delaware River, freezing. Some men shoeless, in bare feet. Snow and sleet swept across the river, floating ice threatened the boats. Soldiers standing silently freezing in freezing water. Muskets had been wrapped to keep them dry, and many men barefoot leaving bloody footprints in the snow. On the night of December 25, 1776, Washington led the army across the ice-filled Delaware River. This was one of the boldest military operations in American history. At dawn on December 26th, Washington's army struck the Haitian garrison at Trenton. The attack was a success. Now we're going to make a side note to who the Haitians were. The Haitians were roughly about 30,000 German soldiers that the British Army rented to help fight in the American Revolutionary War. This made up about a quarter of the British land forces. They were feared for their fierce discipline, but eventually many deserted or integrated into American society post-war. Only days later, Harmon likely fought in the Battle of Princeton. Washington executed another daring maneuver, slipping around the British forces and attacking Princeton. The victory further boosted the morale and proof that the Continental Army could defeat professional troops in the field. For an ordinary soldier like Harmon, these victories transformed despair into confidence. The revolution had survived. On October 4th, 1777, Harmon fought in the Battle of Germantown near Philadelphia. Washington lodged a surprise attack against the British forces that occupied the city. Walking into battle was 11,000 American soldiers and about 9,000 British soldiers. A dense morning fog rolled in, severely obscuring visibility. With the smoke from the muskets and the cannons, this caused chaos, leading to friendly fire incidences and confusion among the American soldiers, where the units became separated. The casualties were the British lost approximately 530 men, the Americans 150 killed, 520 wounded, and 400 captured, and one of those was Harmon. In Pennsylvania, along with the onshore prisons, the British had floating ship prisons. Harmon states that he was wounded in the leg and taken prisoner in the Battle of Germantown. He was taken to Philadelphia and imprisoned for about 6 months and was on one of those ships located in the Delaware River. Between September 1777 and June 1778, the British used captured, disabled, and aging British vessels in the Delaware Bay and River as temporary floating prisons to house and interrogate American soldiers. The living conditions were brutal, where prisoners had to deal with starvation, extreme cold, crowded conditions, disease, contaminated water, and insufficient food. In one written account, it states, "The manner in which they, the prisoners, were fed was once in 2 days. The jailer would come out with a kind of a slop made from slain horses boiled up without salt. They had troughs placed around the jail and poured the stuff in there, and then they would call out to the prisoners like they were calling hogs from the woods." A couple of historical accounts tells of Harmon when he was struck on the head by a British soldier with an iron key that knocked him, quote, senseless, unquote. Harmon often told the tales of cruelty of the British to their prisoners. After 6 months' captivity in Philadelphia, Harmon was then taken to New York, where he remained for another 6 weeks, and then taken to Elizabethtown Point in New Jersey, and finally was exchanged for a Haitian. Elizabethtown Point sits along the waterfront where the Elizabeth River flows into the Newark Bay. This historical location is famous as a crucial colonial port and hub connecting New York and New Jersey during the American Revolution. Harmon's enlistment ended in August of 1778. He was discharged in New Jersey after more than 2 years of service. At only 22 years old, he had already experienced more hardships than many men faced in a lifetime. He had marched hundreds of miles, fought in several major campaigns, crossed the Delaware with Washington, survived captivity, and endured imprisonment. His journey home would have taken close to 15 days to walk the 240 miles back to Maryland. After returning home, he married Mary Polly James on September 7, 1779, in Washington, Maryland. Together they had 9 children, 5 boys and 4 girls. Eventually, the family moved from Maryland to South Carolina, where Harmon had about 70 acres of land, raised horses, cattle, hogs, and sheep. As the 19th century progressed, nearly all Revolutionary War veterans passed away. Harmon became one of the last living links to American founding generation. Local tradition recalls that when the physician Dr. Thompson visited the elderly veteran, he once brought his young son and said, "Mr. Cummings, I have brought my little boy to see a real soldier of the Revolution." Harmon Cummings died on February 5, 1851, at the age of 94. His exact burial location has been lost, though local traditions suggest he may have been buried near Mountain Creek in South Carolina. A spring in the area has long known as Cumming Springs, preserving his memory in the local landscape. As our nation celebrates its history, we remember the men and women who sacrificed so much to secure the blessings of liberty. Their courage, perseverance, and devotion helped shape the country we cherish today. But for us, the descendants of Harmon Cummings, the story is more than history. It is family. Today we pause and honor not only a Revolutionary War soldier, but a father, a grandfather, and an ancestor whose legacy lives through each one of us. Thank you, Harmon Cummings. Your service, your sacrifice, and your love will never be forgotten. Rest in honor and know your story lives on. Now it's time to make the connection. How exactly are you related to Harmon Cummings? Harmon's youngest son was John Cummings. He is the one that joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. John and his wife took a 4-month, 12-day journey to Utah, arriving in 1852. They lived in Provo, then moved to Wasatch County in 1861. Later in life, he was known as Pap. John lived to be 93 years old. John and his wife Rachel had 10 children. The third child was Isaac Cummings. Now, Isaac was born in Tennessee and was later called Babe. At the age of 15, he came across the plains with his parents. He married Sarah Jones when he was 23 years old, and they became the parents of 12 children. When his wife Sarah passed away, Babe was grief-stricken. He was left with 6 unmarried children, the youngest being 8 years old. He lived to be 68 years old. The second son born to Isaac and Sarah was Elisha Jones Cummings. Now, Elisha was born in Heber, and he becomes a very prominent political and businessman in Wasatch County. Elisha was a member of the first Heber City Council. He becomes a director of the Bank of Heber for 20 years and the county chairman for the Republican Party for several years. He married Hannah M. Clegg. They had 4 children. He dies at the age of 73. Elisha and Hannah's youngest daughter, Sarah Vivian as she would be known, is the great-great-granddaughter of Harmon. Vivian was born into a fairly well-to-do family in Heber. She traveled on occasion with her father to sell sheep, so she was able to experience several big cities back east. She married Charles Francis Carlisle, and they had 4 children. Vivian died at the age of 79. From here, looking at the children of Vivian, you should be able to easily tie in your next generation and see your connection to Harmon Cummings. What an incredible lineage we come from.